Commander Thexler stood at the observation window of the Coalition command station, watching another fleet burn in the distance. His feathers rippled with stress, a physical reaction his species could not control. 3 more warships gone, 3,000 more soldiers dead. The Krellith swarm was winning, and everyone knew it. The battle reports came in every hour, and each one was worse than the last. The Coalition had lost 70% of its forces in just 2 months. Worlds were falling. Colonies were being overrun. Young soldiers froze in terror when the Krellith charged. They ran when they should fight. They died when they should live. Thexlar had commanded forces for 20 years. He had won battles across 5 sectors. But nothing prepared him for the Krellith. They were endless. They were fearless. They did not stop. A junior officer approached, her scales pale with fear. She was Salkoth, a reptilian species known for their calm nature. But there was no calm now. "Commander, the 4th Fleet has requested emergency evacuation." "They cannot hold the line." Thexlar closed his eyes. The 4th Fleet had 12,000 soldiers. If they evacuated, an entire sector would fall. Billions would die. Denied. They must hold. "Sir, they are saying..." "I know what they are saying." Thexlar's voice was sharper than he intended. He took a breath. "I know, but we have no choice." The officer left, and Thexlar was alone with his failure. The Coalition was the greatest alliance in the galaxy. 20 species, hundreds of worlds, millions of soldiers, and they were losing to an enemy that should not exist. The door opened again. This time it was his intelligence officer, a floating jellyfish-like creature named Plix. "Commander, there is one option we have not tried." "What option?" "We have requested aid from every member species. We have drafted civilians. We have..." "Earth," Plix said quietly. Thexlar stopped. Earth, the Deathworld. He had heard stories about Earth and its people. Every Coalition officer had. Humans were the newest species to join the Alliance, and they came from a planet that should not produce intelligent life. Earth was a nightmare world. Its gravity was crushing. Its weather was violent. Its animals were predators designed to kill. Diseases that would destroy other species were common on Earth. The humans had survived all of it. They had climbed to the top of their world's food chain through violence and stubbornness. But Earth was far away. And Thexlar had his doubts. Yes, humans were tough. Yes, they could survive harsh conditions. But could they fight? The Coalition had never tested them in real war. Humans had only been members for 5 years. They sent diplomats and scientists. They traded goods and knowledge. But they had never sent soldiers. "Contact their ambassador," Thexlar finally said. "But do not expect much. They are one world. We need armies." 2 days later, Ambassador Deho arrived at the command station. Thexlar went to meet him at the docking bay, trying to prepare himself for disappointment. The doors opened, and Thexlar stopped walking. The human who stepped through was old. His hair was gray, almost white. His face had deep lines. He moved slowly, carefully, like someone whose body had seen many years. He wore a simple uniform with few decorations. Behind him came another human, younger but still middle-aged, who walked with a slight limp. Thexlar felt his feathers flatten in confusion. This was Earth's ambassador, this elderly male. "Commander Thexlar," the old human said, his voice rough but strong. "I am Ambassador Deho. This is Captain Hyunwoo, our military liaison. Thank you for contacting Earth." Thexlar led them to the command center. Along the way, Deho said nothing about the damaged sections of the station. He did not ask questions. He simply observed, his dark eyes taking in everything. It reminded Thexlar of how predators watched prey. In the command center, Thexlar showed them the tactical display. Red markers covered the map. Each one represented a Krellith position. Blue markers showed Coalition forces. There was far more red than blue. "As you can see, we are losing," Thexlar said simply. "The Krellith outnumber us. They do not fear death. Our soldiers cannot match their aggression. We need reinforcements. Many reinforcements." "Can Earth help?" Deho studied the map for a long time. Then he looked at Hyunwoo. The younger human nodded slightly. It was like they spoke without words. "Earth will help," Deho said. "We will send volunteers." Thexlar felt a flutter of hope. "How many?" "We need divisions. We need tens of thousands." "We can send 500, Deho said. The hope died. 500? That was nothing. The Coalition was losing thousands every day. 500 humans would not change anything. Ambassador, I appreciate the offer, but we need— 500 will be enough, Deho interrupted. His voice was calm, certain. These are special soldiers, veterans. They have fought in wars you cannot imagine. Thexelar looked at Captain Hyunwoo, hoping the younger human would be more realistic. But Hyunwoo just nodded. The ambassador is correct. These soldiers are experienced, very experienced. Experience is good, Thexelar said carefully. But we need numbers. The Krelith— I know what the Krelith are, Deho said. His voice was still calm, but there was something underneath it. Something cold. I have read your reports. I have seen the battle footage. They are a swarm species. They attack in waves. They use fear as a weapon. They have never faced organized resistance. They have destroyed 3 of our fleets, Thexelar said, his voice rising. They have killed millions. What can 500 humans do? Deho smiled. It was not a happy smile. These 500 are not ordinary soldiers, Commander. They are old. They have lived long lives. They have families. They have found peace. But when they heard that young soldiers were dying in a war they could not win, they volunteered. Every one of them chose to come here. Thexelar did not understand. You are sending your old soldiers? Your elderly? Why not your young, strong warriors? Because our young have not seen what these men and women have seen, Deho said. They do not know what these veterans know. And what the Krelith do not understand, Commander, is that humans from Earth do not fear death. We lived with death every day for millions of years. It made us what we are. Captain Hyunwoo spoke for the first time. Commander, with respect, you do not understand what you have asked for. Earth is not like other worlds. To survive on Earth, you must be willing to do anything. You must accept that death is always close. These soldiers grew up on a world where everything wanted to kill them. They learned to fight in wars where losing meant extinction. And now they are old, and they know they do not have much time left. That makes them the most dangerous soldiers in the galaxy. Thexelar looked between the 2 humans. Deho old and calm, Hyunwoo scarred and serious. He did not know if they were brave or insane. When will these soldiers arrive? Thexelar asked. 3 days, Deho said. Prepare your forces, Commander. And warn them. Human soldiers are not like coalition soldiers. We fight differently. We think differently. Some of your people will be disturbed by what they see. 3 days later, Thexelar stood in the docking bay again. 5 transport ships had arrived from Earth. The doors opened and humans began to walk out. Thexelar felt his feathers rise in alarm. These were the soldiers? These were Earth's warriors. They were old. All of them. Gray hair, lined faces. Some moved stiffly. One woman had a scar that covered half her face. A man walked with a cane. Another adjusted reading glasses as he looked around the docking bay. These were not soldiers. These were grandparents, elders, people who should be resting, not fighting. Thexelar looked at Deho. This is a joke. No joke, Deho said quietly. Watch them, Commander. Watch how they move. Watch how they look at their surroundings. These people have survived things you cannot imagine. They are old because they were good enough to live this long. Thexelar watched, and slowly he began to see what Deho meant. The humans moved carefully, but not weakly. They checked their equipment with practiced hands. They spoke to each other in low voices, not with excitement, but with calm purpose. And their eyes. Their eyes were hard, cold, the eyes of people who had seen terrible things and survived. One human approached. He was short, his hair completely white. But he stood straight and his voice was clear. Commander Thexelar? I am Lieutenant Colonel Bong-Su. I command the Earth Volunteers. Where do you want us? Thexelar did not know what to say. Finally, he found his voice. The forward base. 40 kilometers from the front line. We will brief you there. Bong-Su nodded. Good, my soldiers need to prepare. How long until the Krelith attack? We do not know. They could attack at any time. For the first time, Bong-Su smiled. It was a cold smile. Perfect. We do not like to wait. Forward operating base. Sentinel sat on a hill overlooking a valley where flowers once grew. Now the valley was black with weapons fire and covered with the bones of coalition soldiers who had tried to hold this position. The base itself was a collection of pre-made buildings and defensive walls. It looked strong, but everyone knew the Krelith could overrun it in hours if they chose to attack. Private Gitai stood at the landing pad, watching the human transports arrive. He was young, only 23 years old, and he had been a soldier for less than a year. His scales were still bright green, not yet dulled by stress and fear. He had been assigned to help the humans settle in, and he thought it was a punishment. Everyone knew the humans were a joke. Old people from a backwater world. They would probably die in the first attack, and Gite would die trying to protect them. The first transport landed and humans began filing out. Gite stared. They were even older than he had heard. Gray hair everywhere. Wrinkled skin. One old woman had to stretch her back after standing up. A man pulled out pills and took medicine right there on the landing pad. "This is insane," Gite whispered to himself. A human walked up to him. The man was tall and thin with gray hair cut very short. His face was weathered like old leather. He carried a large bag over one shoulder as if it weighed nothing. "You are Private Gite?" "Yes, sir." Gite did not know what rank this human held. "I am Lieutenant Jae-sung, demolition specialist. I am told you will show us to our barracks." The human's voice was calm, almost bored. "Yes, sir. This way." Gite led the humans across the base. Other coalition soldiers stopped to stare. Some pointed. Gite heard whispers. "Are those really the humans? They look so old. Earth must be insulting us." If Jae-sung heard the whispers, he showed no reaction. He simply walked, his eyes scanning the base's defenses. "How many soldiers are stationed here?" he asked. 3,000, sir. Mostly Salkoth and Avilion. Some Plex units for support. "And the Krelith? How far away?" 40 kilometers, sir. Sometimes they send scouts closer." Jae-sung nodded. "They will attack soon. Probably at night." Gite blinked. "How do you know?" "Because that is what I would do." Jae-sung said it like he was discussing the weather. They reached the barracks, a long building with rows of beds. The humans filed in and immediately began unpacking. Gite watched in confusion. They did not unpack like soldiers. They unpacked like people moving into a home. One woman, her hair tied back in a gray braid, set up a small photo on the table next to her bed. It showed children and grandchildren all smiling. "That is Sergeant Sun-hee," Jae-sung said, following Gite's gaze. "Best sniper in our unit. Maybe best sniper Earth has ever produced. She has 147 confirmed kills from her last war." Gite looked at the old woman again. She was adjusting her reading glasses. But she is old?" Jae-sung smiled. "Yes, 61 years old. Her eyes are not as good as they were. That is why she uses a better scope now. Her hands are steadier than mine, though. Age does that sometimes. You stop shaking. You stop worrying." Another human approached. She was shorter than Sun-hee, with gray hair and kind eyes. But her hands were scarred and she moved with purpose. "Lieutenant, I need to speak with the base medical officer. Our medical supplies are limited and I want to know what they have available." "This is Corporal Young-mi," Jae-sung said to Gite. "Combat medic. She has saved more lives than most doctors. Young-mi, this is Private Gite. He is our liaison." Young-mi smiled at Gite. It was a warm smile like a grandmother might give. "Nice to meet you, Private. Do not worry. We old people might surprise you." After she left, Gite turned to Jae-sung. "I do not understand. Why did you come here? You are old. You should be home safe with your families." Jae-sung set down his bag and looked at Gite. For a moment his eyes were distant, remembering something. "I was home. I had a small house near the mountains. My children are grown. My grandchildren visit on weekends. I fixed motorcycles for fun. It was peaceful. Then why leave?" "Because peace is not free," Jae-sung said quietly. "I watched the reports. I saw young soldiers like you dying because you do not know how to fight this kind of war. The Coalition trains soldiers to fight with honor, with rules. The Krelith do not have honor. They do not have rules. They only have hunger and violence. You need soldiers who understand that. Soldiers who have fought that kind of enemy before. But you could die." Jae-sung smiled. "Private, I have been nearly dead many times. A building collapsed on me once during urban warfare. I was trapped for 6 hours. Another time I was caught in a chemical attack. I should have died then too, but I did not." "Do you know why?" Gite shook his head. "Because I was too stubborn, and because I knew people needed me. That has not changed. People still need me, so here I am." That evening, Lieutenant Colonel Bong-soo called a meeting in the command center. Coalition officers filled one side of the room. Human soldiers filled the other. Gite stood in the back watching. Commander Thexelar stood at the front. "We are glad to have Earth's support," he said, though his voice said otherwise. "The Krelith are a dangerous enemy. We have lost many soldiers. Our tactics are failing, Bongsu interrupted. The old human stood up. He was 69 years old, the oldest human in the unit. But his voice was strong. Commander, I have reviewed your battle reports. Your tactics are designed for fighting other coalition species. Species that follow rules. Species that negotiate. The Krellith are not that kind of enemy. Thexler's feathers ruffled. What do you suggest? Let us fight our way, Bongsu said. Do not assign us to your formations. Do not give us your weapons. Let us use what we know. What we have learned from our wars. A coalition officer and a Villian major spoke up. With respect, human wars are primitive. You fight with bullets and explosives. We have energy weapons, shields, advanced technology. Bongsu looked at the major for a long moment. Major, how many battles have you won against the Krellith? The major's feathers flattened. That is not fair. The Krellith are winning, Bongsu said. They are winning because your advanced weapons are designed to wound, not kill. Your tactics are designed to minimize casualties, not win wars. You fight like people who have forgotten what real war means. The room went silent. Gite could feel the tension. Coalition officers looked offended, but they also looked uncertain. Because Bongsu was right. They were losing. Thexlar finally spoke. What do you need? Time, Bongsu said. Give us 3 days to prepare. We will modify this base's defenses. We will set up our positions. And we will need access to your weapons depot. Not to use your weapons, but to make our own. That is against regulations. Then change your regulations, or watch more young soldiers die. Bongsu's voice was not angry. It was simply honest, cold, final. Thexler looked at his officers. None of them spoke. Finally, he nodded. 3 days. After that, we will see if Earth's reputation is deserved. For the next 3 days, Gite watched the humans work. They did not work like coalition soldiers. Coalition soldiers followed schedules. They took breaks. They complained. The humans worked constantly. Jae-sung and his demolitions team dug holes around the base perimeter. They placed explosives in patterns Gite did not understand. When he asked why, Jae-sung said, kill zones. When the Krellith charge, they will follow the paths we leave open, and those paths lead to places where they will die. Sun-hee set up her sniper position on the highest building. She spent hours calculating distances, wind patterns, even the base's rotation relative to nearby planets. Gravity is different here, she explained to Gite. Bullets fall differently. I must adjust. Young Mai organized the medical bay with brutal efficiency. She threw away supplies she said were useless. She demanded more bandages, more blood substitutes, more pain medication. Coalition medicine is designed for minor injuries, she told the medical staff. We will have major injuries. Many of them. We need to be ready. Other humans reinforced walls, created backup positions, and established supply lines inside the base. They worked like people who knew exactly what was coming. On the third night, Gite found Bongsu standing on the wall, looking out at the dark valley. The old human was smoking something, a thin stick that glowed in the darkness. Should you be smoking, sir? Gite asked. It is bad for your health, Bongsu laughed. It was a rough, dry sound. Private, I'm 69 years old. I have been shot 4 times. I have broken 23 bones. I survived 2 civil wars and 1 world war. I think a cigarette is not going to kill me. He took another drag. Besides, it helps me think. What are you thinking about? My friends, Bongsu said quietly. I am thinking about the men and women who did not make it to this age. Good soldiers, better people. They died in wars that had to be fought. Wars where losing meant the end of everything. He flicked ash over the wall. I am thinking that I owe them something. I survived when they did not. So when I heard young soldiers were dying here, I knew I had to come, because that is what my friends would have done. Are you afraid? Gite asked. Bongsu looked at him. Always, only fools are not afraid. But fear is just a feeling. It does not control me anymore. I have lived too long, seen too much. Death will come when it comes. Until then, I have work to do. That night, alarms screamed across the base. The Krellith were attacking. The alarm cut through the night like a blade. Gite jerked awake, his heart pounding. All around him, coalition soldiers were scrambling, grabbing weapons, running to positions. There was panic in their movements, fear in their voices. They had heard what the Krellith did to soldiers they caught. Gite grabbed his rifle and ran toward the perimeter wall. Other Salkoth soldiers ran with him, their scales pale with terror. They reached the wall and looked out into the darkness. At first, Gite saw nothing. Then he saw movement. Lots of movement. The Krellith came like a living wave. Thousands of them. They ran on 4 legs, their bodies low to the ground. Their armor was organic, grown from their own shells. Their mouths had 3 rows of teeth. They made no sound. They just ran, faster than anything Gite had ever seen. "Hold the line," an officer screamed. "Hold the line!" But coalition soldiers were already breaking. Some dropped their weapons. Some ran for the interior of the base. Gite felt his own hands shaking. There were so many Krellith. So many. Then he heard a different sound. A human voice, calm and steady, speaking in Korean. He did not understand the words, but he understood the tone. It was not panicked. It was not afraid. It was almost relaxed. Gite looked to his left. The humans had taken positions along the wall. They were not running. They were not panicking. They were checking their weapons, adjusting sights, taking deep breaths. Lieutenant Jae-sung stood among them, speaking in that same calm voice. Whatever he was saying, it was working. The humans around him became still, focused. Bong-soo's voice came over the communication system. "All human units, this is Colonel Bong-soo. Fire on my mark. Snipers, take your targets. Demolitions, wait for my signal. Everyone else controlled bursts. Make every shot count. We have done this before. We will do it again." The Krellith were 500 meters away now. Gite could see their eyes, black and empty. Coalition soldiers fired wildly. Energy bolts flew everywhere, most missing completely. The Krellith did not even slow down. 400 meters. Sun-hee was in her sniper position on the tall building. She looked through her scope with her reading glasses pushed up on her forehead. Her breathing was slow, regular. She squeezed the trigger. A Krellith fell, its head exploding. She moved the rifle slightly. Squeezed again. Another Krellith dropped. She was not firing fast, but every shot killed. 300 meters. "Human units, fire," Bong-soo said. The humans opened fire. Their weapons were different from coalition energy rifles. They used bullets, physical projectiles, old technology. But when the bullets hit Krellith, the creatures fell and did not get up. The humans fired in short bursts, 3 or 4 rounds at a time. They aimed for the head and chest. They did not waste ammunition. 200 meters. The Krellith entered the kill zone that Jae-sung had prepared. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the ground exploded. Fire and smoke filled the air. Dozens of Krellith were torn apart. The others kept coming, but now they had to go around the craters. This funneled them into narrow paths. Exactly as Jae-sung had planned. The humans concentrated their fire on those paths. Krellith fell in piles. But more kept coming. Always more. 100 meters. Gite was firing now, his rifle shaking in his hands. His shots went wide. He could not control his fear. Next to him, a human soldier, an old man with white hair, was firing with mechanical precision. Each burst dropped a Krellith. The man's face was calm. He could have been shooting targets at a range. The Krellith reached the wall. They began climbing, their claws digging into the metal. Coalition soldiers fell back, screaming, but the humans held their positions. They drew pistols and knives. When Krellith came over the wall, humans met them with bullets and blades. Gite saw Jae-sung fight. The old man moved like water, smooth and efficient. A Krellith lunged at him. Jae-sung sidestepped, put his pistol against the creature's head and fired. He was already moving to the next target before the first one hit the ground. No wasted motion. No hesitation. Another explosion rocked the battlefield, more of Jae-sung's traps detonating. The Krellith wave faltered. For the first time in the war, they stopped advancing. They had lost too many. Their momentum was gone. Push them back, Bong-soo ordered. Do not let them regroup. The humans advanced down the wall, firing constantly. Coalition soldiers, seeing the humans move forward, found their courage. They followed. Gite found himself following too, though he did not remember deciding to do it. The battle lasted 2 hours. When it ended, the ground in front of the base was covered with Krellith bodies. Gite stood on the wall shaking, unable to believe he was alive. Around him, coalition soldiers were crying, vomiting, or sitting in shock. The humans were checking their weapons, reloading. Some were cleaning blood off their knives. Young Mi was already moving through the wounded, working fast and efficient. She treated a Salkoth soldier with a chest wound, her hands steady even though they were covered in blood. You will be fine. she told the soldier in accented Galactic common. "The wound looks worse than it is." "Stay still." Gite walked over to where Jae-sung stood. The old human was examining a crack in the wall, making notes on a data pad. He looked tired, but not exhausted, just tired, like someone who had worked a long shift. "How are you so calm?" Gite asked. His own voice was shaking. Jae-sung looked up. "Calm? I am not calm, Private. My heart is still racing. My hands will shake in about 10 minutes when the adrenaline fades. Tonight I will have bad dreams like I always do after combat." He paused. "But I have learned to control what I show on the outside. Panic spreads. Calm spreads too. My soldiers need to see calm, so I show them calm. You have done this before. Many times. Too many times." Jae-sung put away his datapad. "In my 20s, I fought in a civil war. Urban combat. Buildings collapsing. Snipers everywhere. I was trapped under rubble for 6 hours once. I thought I would die there, but I did not. I survived. After that war ended, I thought I was done. But then there was another war. And another. Each time I told myself it would be the last. But war kept finding me. Why did you come here then? You could have stayed home. Because young soldiers like you were dying. And I know how to keep you alive." Jae-sung looked out at the battlefield. "When you are young, you think you are invincible. You take risks. You want to be a hero. But when you are old, you know the truth. You are not invincible. Heroes die. What matters is doing the job and going home. That is what I teach. That is why we are here." A scream cut through the air. Gite turned and saw young Mi running across the battlefield. She was heading toward a coalition soldier who had fallen outside the wall. Krelith bodies surrounded the soldier. Some of those bodies might not be dead. "She cannot go out there," Gite shouted. "It is too dangerous." But young Mi was already there. She knelt beside the wounded soldier, checking for injuries. Her rifle was slung across her back. She had both hands on the soldier, applying pressure to a wound. She was completely focused on saving a life, with no attention to the danger around her. Two Krelith that had been playing dead suddenly moved. They charged at young Mi. She did not even see them. She was too focused on her patient. Sun Hee saw them. From her sniper position, she fired twice. Both Krelith dropped. Young Mai glanced up, nodded once at Sun Hee, and went back to treating the wounded soldier. 3 more humans ran out to help young Mi. Together, they carried the wounded soldier back to the base. The soldier was a villain, his feathers soaked with blood. Young Mai worked on him right there on the ground, not even waiting to get to the medical bay. "You will live," she told the soldier firmly. "I will not let you die. Do you understand? You will live." The soldier nodded weakly. Young Mi kept working, her scarred hands moving with practiced skill. Gite watched and felt something change inside him. These humans were old. Their bodies were worn, but their spirits were not. They were stronger than any soldier he had ever met. Command center reports came in throughout the night. The Krelith had attacked with over 5,000 warriors. They had lost more than 3,000. For the first time since the war began, the Krelith had retreated. They had been beaten back. Coalition casualties were light, 73 wounded, only 12 dead. Most of those deaths happened in the first minute, before the humans' defensive plan took effect. Human casualties were even lighter. 5 wounded, none seriously, 0 dead. Bongsu's plan had worked perfectly. In the command center, Commander Thexlar stared at the reports. He read them 3 times, unable to believe the numbers. 500 humans had just beaten back 5,000 Krelith. Old humans. Humans who should be home with their families. Humans who moved slowly and needed reading glasses. "How?" Thexlar asked Bongsu. "How did you do this?" Bongsu sat in a chair, drinking something hot from a cup. He looked tired now. His age showed in the lines around his eyes. "We did it because we have done it before, Commander. Not against the Krelith, but against enemies like them. Enemies that use fear. Enemies that overwhelm with numbers. We learned long ago that fear is a weapon only if you let it control you. And we learned that numbers mean nothing if you control the terrain. Your tactics are brutal." "Yes," Bongsu agreed. "War is brutal. Your coalition has forgotten that. You have made war clean, controlled. But the Krelith are not clean. They are not controlled." The Shattered Valley had earned its name. 3 coalition divisions had marched into this place. Only 300 soldiers marched out. The valley was 10 kilometers long and filled with rocks, caves, and narrow passages. Perfect ambush terrain. The Krellith controlled it completely. Gite stood at the valley entrance with 500 human soldiers and 200 coalition volunteers. He had volunteered to join the humans, and so had other soldiers who had fought in the night battle. They had seen what the humans could do. They wanted to learn. Bong-Su stood on a rock addressing his troops. His voice carried clearly in the morning air. This valley killed 40,000 coalition soldiers in 2 weeks. The Krellith hold every cave, every ridge, every passage. They think this ground belongs to them now. He paused. They are wrong. Today we take it back. Not because it is strategic. Not because command ordered it, but because young soldiers died here. And we will honor them by finishing what they started. The humans checked their equipment one final time. Gite watched them. They moved with such care, such attention to detail. Every weapon was checked twice. Every supply was counted. Nothing was left to chance. Jae-sung walked over to Gite. Stay close to me. Watch what I do. When I tell you to move, you move. When I tell you to stop, you freeze. Understand? Yes, sir. Good. And private? Today you will be afraid. That is normal. But do not let fear make your decisions. Let your training make your decisions. The advance began. The humans did not march in formation like coalition troops. They moved in small groups spread out using cover. They moved slowly, checking every rock, every shadow. It took them an hour to move 1 kilometer. Coalition forces would have rushed ahead. But the humans were patient. Private Insu, a 59-year-old man with gray hair and glasses, was directing artillery support. He did not use computers. He calculated firing solutions in his head, using math that Gite did not understand. Fire mission, 300 meters, elevation 45 degrees, 2 rounds. Insu said calmly into his communicator. Seconds later, explosions erupted ahead of them, clearing a Krellith ambush position before the humans even reached it. How did you know they were there? Gite asked. Insu smiled. I did not know, but that is where I would wait if I was defending this valley, so I removed the option. Captain Hyojin was doing something even stranger. She was broadcasting messages in the Krellith language. Gite could not understand the words, but the tone was mocking, challenging. What is she doing? He asked Jae-sung. Psychological warfare, Jae-sung replied. She is telling them that they are weak, that they run from old humans, that their hive will be ashamed of them. She is making them angry. Angry enemies make mistakes. The first real contact came at kilometer 3. Krellith warriors burst from a cave, charging at the human position. But the humans were ready. They had set up a crossfire without Gite even noticing. The Krellith ran into a killing zone. They died before they could reach the human lines. More attacks came. Each time the humans were ready. It was like they could see the future, but Jae-sung explained it differently. We cannot see the future. We just understand terrain and tactics. The Krellith have patterns. They like to attack from high ground. They like to use caves. They like to charge in straight lines. Once you know the pattern, you can predict them. The battle went on for hours, then days. The humans advanced slowly, taking one position at a time. They fought for 72 hours straight. Gite was exhausted, barely able to stand. But the humans kept moving. These old people, some in their 60s and 70s, just kept fighting. They took short rests, ate quickly, and continued. How do you keep going? Gite asked Jae-sung during a brief pause. Jae-sung was eating a ration bar, his face covered in dust and dried blood. Because we must. Because stopping means dying. Because soldiers depend on us. He took a drink of water. When I was young, I would complain about being tired. Now I know that tired is just a feeling. Pain is just a feeling. What matters is the mission. You push through feelings. On the second night, Gite was on watch with Sun-hee. The old woman sat perfectly still, watching the darkness through her scope. She had not slept in over 30 hours, but her hands were steady. Do you miss your family? Gite asked quietly. Every moment, Sun-hee replied. I have 3 children, 7 grandchildren. They did not want me to come here. My daughter cried. She said I was too old, that I had already done enough. She adjusted her scope slightly, but I told her that old people like me have a responsibility. We have lived long lives. We have seen peace. Young people should not have to die for that peace. We should protect them for as long as we can. But you could die here. Yes. Sun-hee's voice was calm. I could, but I am 61 years old. I have lived a good life. You are 23. You have not lived yet. If someone must die, better me than you. Before Gite could respond, Sun-hee fired. A Krelith scout fell from a cliff 300 meters away. She had seen it in total darkness. "They are probing our defenses," she said calmly. "Tell the lieutenant." The third day was the hardest. The humans reached the center of the valley, where the Krelith resistance was strongest. The fighting became brutal. Close quarters combat in caves and tunnels, places where experience mattered more than strength or speed. Gite watched Jae-sung work in the tunnels. The old man moved carefully, checking every corner, every shadow. When Krelith attacked, he did not panic. He moved like he was dancing, always in the right position, always one step ahead. Gite tried to copy his movements, and slowly he began to understand. It was not about being fast. It was about being smart, about thinking ahead. In one tunnel, they found coalition soldiers' bodies. They had been there for weeks. Jae-sung stopped and his face changed. The calm mask cracked. "Children," he whispered. "They sent children to die here." He looked at Gite. "How old were you when you joined the military?" 22, sir." 22. Jae-sung knelt beside one of the bodies, a young Avilian soldier. On Earth, 22 is still young, still learning, still growing. This soldier should have had 50 more years. Should have had a family. Had grandchildren. He stood up slowly. "That is why we are here, Private. Because no more children should die in this place." The tunnel fighting lasted hours. The humans cleared cave after cave. Krelith fought desperately, but the humans were relentless. They used grenades, flame weapons, and controlled demolitions. Jae-sung collapsed tunnels behind them, making sure the Krelith could not retake ground. Young-mi worked constantly, treating wounded soldiers. Human and coalition both. She did not sleep. Did not stop. Gite saw her hands shaking from exhaustion, but still she worked. "Rest," he told her. "You need rest." "I will rest when everyone is treated," she replied. Her voice was hoarse. "That is a medic's job. You do not stop until everyone is safe." On the fourth day, something unexpected happened. The Krelith were trying to collapse a tunnel that the humans were in. They had set explosives trying to bury the humans alive. Jae-sung saw it happening. "Everyone out, now!" The humans ran, but Gite tripped, fell. His leg was caught under a rock. He pulled but could not get free. The tunnel was starting to shake. Dust fell from the ceiling. Jae-sung ran back. "Leave me," Gite shouted. "Save yourself!" Jae-sung did not answer. He just grabbed the rock and lifted. His old muscles strained. His face turned red, but he lifted the rock enough for Gite to pull his leg free. Then Jae-sung grabbed Gite and ran, half dragging him. They made it out of the tunnel just as it collapsed behind them. Jae-sung collapsed on the ground, breathing hard. His hands were shaking. He looked like he might have a heart attack. Young-mi ran over, checking him. "You are too old to be lifting rocks," she scolded. "Then I should have died young," Jae-sung gasped. "Too late now." Gite looked at the collapsed tunnel, then at Jae-sung. The old human had risked his life. For what? For a young alien soldier he barely knew. "Why?" Gite asked. "Why did you come back?" Jae-sung sat up slowly. "Because that is what soldiers do. We do not leave anyone behind. Age does not matter. Species does not matter. If you wear a uniform and fight beside me, you are my brother. And I do not abandon my brothers." Later that day, they received a radio message. Coalition scouts had found something. Deep in the valley, in the oldest caves, they found tunnels. Ancient tunnels. Pre-coalition. They went deep into the planet, possibly connecting to other valleys and regions. Bong-su made a decision. "We collapsed the tunnels. All of them. The Krelith have been using them to move troops. We take away that advantage." Jae-sung went to work. He spent hours placing charges deep in the tunnel system. It was dangerous work. The tunnels could collapse at any time. But Jae-sung worked with calm precision, like he was building something beautiful rather than destroying it. When the charges were set, everyone pulled back. Jae-sung pressed the detonator. The ground shook. Explosions rippled through the valley. Entire sections of cliff face collapsed. When the dust settled, the tunnels were gone. The Krelith's hidden highways were destroyed. The valley was theirs. The humans had taken it in 4 days. What the coalition could not do in 2 weeks with 3 divisions, 500 old humans had done. The cost was high. 17 humans had died. Another 50 were wounded. The Krelith High Fortress was built into a mountain. It had stood for 200 years, growing larger as the Krelith dug deeper into the rock. From the outside, it looked like a natural formation, but the humans knew better. Jae-sung pointed out the defensive positions, the hidden weapons, the killing fields around the entrance. "This place has never been taken," Commander Thexelar said over the communication channel. "We estimate 10,000 Krelith warriors inside. Maybe more. We should wait for reinforcements. Wait for more troops." Bong-su stood looking at the fortress through binoculars. Around him, his human soldiers prepared their equipment. "Commander, with respect, we are old. Waiting is not an option. We must strike now while the Krelith are still confused from losing the valley." "You will all die," Thexelar said flatly. "Perhaps," Bong-su replied, "but we will die trying to end this war, not hiding in a base waiting for someone else to do it." The attack plan was simple but brutal. The humans would not try to besiege the fortress. They would not try to surround it. They would do what the Krelith would never expect. They would walk right up to the front entrance and force their way in. "It is suicide," a coalition officer protested. "No," Jae-sung said calmly. "It is calculated risk. The Krelith expect us to be cautious. They have designed their defenses for a careful, slow attack. We will be fast and direct. We will be inside before they can organize a proper defense." Gi-tae was in the assault team. So were 50 coalition volunteers who had fought in the valley. They had learned from the humans. They trusted the humans. If these old people were willing to attack the fortress, then they would follow. The assault began at dawn. Insu directed artillery fire at the fortress entrance, destroying the outer defenses. Then the humans ran. Not a slow advance, a full run straight at the fortress gates. It was insane. It was terrifying. But it worked. The Krelith were not ready. Their weapons fired, but the humans were moving too fast, using too much smoke and cover. They reached the gates, and Jae-sung placed breaching charges. The explosion ripped the gates open, and humans poured inside. Inside the fortress was chaos. Tunnels went in every direction. Krelith warriors came from everywhere, but the humans had trained for this. They moved in small teams, each team covering the others. They advanced through the fortress like water flowing downhill, finding the path of least resistance, always moving forward. Gi-tae stayed close to Jae-sung. The old human moved through the tunnels like he had been born in them. He seemed to know where the Krelith would be before they appeared. When asked how, Jae-sung said, "Tunnels have logic. Defenders always protect the same things: water sources, food storage, command centers. You just follow the best defended paths." The fighting was brutal. Close quarters. No room for mistakes. Young Mi was with them, treating wounded soldiers even while bullets flew over her head. She saved 3 lives in the first hour, working in conditions that would make most doctors quit. Sun-hee found a position overlooking a central chamber. From there, she could cover multiple tunnels. Her rifle spoke in steady rhythm. Krelith commanders fell. Officers died. She was taking apart the enemy's leadership one shot at a time. Captain Hai-jin was broadcasting again, her voice echoing through the fortress tunnels. This time she was not mocking. She was offering surrender. "Your commanders are dying. Your defenses are falling. You can surrender and live or fight and die. Choose." Some Krelith chose to surrender. It was unprecedented. Krelith never surrendered, but these did, because for the first time in their history, they were truly afraid. These old humans fought without fear, without hesitation, without mercy when needed. It was terrifying. The humans fought for 6 hours straight. 6 hours of constant combat in dark tunnels. Gi-tae saw things he would never forget. He saw Jae-sung carry a wounded soldier on his back while still fighting. He saw young Mi run into a burning tunnel to save someone. He saw Sun-hee make a shot that was physically impossible, killing a Krelith commander from 800 meters through 3 different tunnels. But he also saw humans fall. A soldier named Won-shik, 65 years old, took a direct hit saving his squad. He died instantly. Another soldier, Ki-hoon, was 63. He held a tunnel alone while others retreated, killing 20 Krelith before falling. They died like they lived, fighting, protecting others. Gi-tae felt tears on his face, but he kept moving, kept fighting. That was what the humans had taught him. You grieve later. Right now you finish the mission. They found the hive core deep in the mountain. This was the command center, where the Krelith War Master directed the entire campaign. The door was massive, reinforced, designed to hold against any attack. Jae-sung looked at it for a long moment. Then he smiled. It was not a happy smile. I have been waiting for a challenge. He placed charges in a pattern that Gite did not understand. Complex, precise. The work of someone who had been blowing things up for 40 years. The explosion was controlled but devastating. The door crumpled inward. Humans rushed through. Inside was the War Master, Drekthor, surrounded by elite guards. The battle was fierce. Gite fought beside Jae-sung, finally understanding what it meant to trust your fellow soldiers completely. Drekthor was massive, twice the size of a normal Krelith. He charged at Bong-su, clearly targeting the human leader. But Bong-su did not run. He stood his ground, raised his rifle, and fired once, twice, 3 times, each shot precise, clinical. Drekthor fell at Bong-su's feet. The War Master looked up at Bong-su with dying eyes. "Why?" Drekthor gasped. "You are old, dying. Why do you fight?" Bong-su knelt beside the War Master. "Because that is what soldiers do. We fight so others do not have to. We sacrifice so others can live. You would not understand. Your species only knows how to take. Ours learn to give." Drekthor died. With his death, the fortress fell. Krelith forces throughout the complex surrendered. For the first time in the war, the Krelith had lost. Completely. Totally. The cost was high. 73 humans had died in the assault. 141 were wounded. Among coalition volunteers, 12 were dead. Gite's friend Komin was among them. Komin had saved Young Mi's life, taking a hit meant for her. He died in her arms while she desperately tried to save him. Young Mi did not cry. Not then. She just kept working, treating the next wounded soldier, then the next. But Gite saw her hands shaking, saw the pain in her eyes. Later, when the fighting was over, Gite found Young Mi sitting alone in a quiet tunnel. She was staring at her hands, still covered in Komin's blood. Tears ran down her face. "I could not save him," she whispered. "I am a medic. I save people, but I could not save him." Gite sat beside her. "He saved you. That was his choice. And because he made that choice, you lived to save 20 other soldiers today. He would think that was a good trade." Young Mi looked at him. "You sound like one of us now." "I learned from the best," Gite said. Back at Coalition Command, Commander Thexelar could not believe the reports. The fortress had fallen. The Krelith war machine in this sector was destroyed, and it had been done by 500 old humans and a few hundred Coalition volunteers. Ambassador Daeho sat across from Thexelar, looking as calm as ever. "You doubted us," he said simply. "I did," Thexelar admitted. "I thought you were insulting us by sending your elderly. I thought they would die in the first battle. I was wrong. I am sorry. You did not understand," Daeho said. "Earth is not like other worlds. We did not climb to the top of our food chain by being the strongest or the fastest. We did it by being the most stubborn, the most adaptable, the most willing to sacrifice. Those qualities do not fade with age. They grow stronger. Why did you send volunteers? Why not draft soldiers?" Daeho smiled. "Because force soldiers fight to survive. Volunteers fight to protect. There is a difference. Every human who came here chose to come. They knew they might die, but they also knew that young soldiers were dying, and they could not allow that to continue. That is the Earth way. The old protect the young even at the cost of their own lives." Thexelar was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "What now? Will the humans leave?" "Some will leave," Daeho said. "But 50 have volunteered to stay. They will train your soldiers. Teach them how to fight the way Earth fights, not with technology, not with numbers, but with experience, with wisdom, with the understanding that war is not about glory, it is about protecting what matters." The memorial service was held a week later. The names of the 73 fallen humans were read aloud. So were the names of the 12 coalition volunteers, including Komin. Humans and aliens stood together, honoring the dead. Sun-hee spoke at the service. Her voice was steady, but her eyes were wet. "We came here as old people. People who had lived full lives. We had families. We had peace. But we left that peace behind because we remembered what it was like to be young and afraid. We remembered what it was like to face an enemy we could not beat alone. So we came, and some of us did not go home. But that is okay, because we died doing what soldiers do. We protected the young." After the service, Gite found Jae-sung packing his equipment. The old human was going home. His wounds were too severe for him to continue. "I do not want you to leave," Gite said. Jae-sung smiled. "I do not want to leave either. But my body is done. I'm 64 years old.